Hello, and welcome back to Start Adventuring, a channel dedicated to empowering new role players to break down their barriers and just start adventuring. I'm Ben.
And I'm Baxter, and this is our 3 lessons video for running Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions, the second of the Candlekeep Mysteries. I'm really excited to get into it, so let's go ahead and dive in.
The first lesson that we have for Mazfroth's is to make sure that the challenges you're presenting have sort of open-ended solutions, which is just to say that as written, the adventure can be sort of railroady, discover the plot, travel to the wide, find the people who have the books, take the books back. It's a very well sort of written adventure in as much as like the objective is clear. So you, as the DM, kind of have to prepare ways for players to learn more about what's going on, find solutions to the problems in a way that makes it not necessarily feel, A, B, C, D.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that often, in this one specifically, is when I ran it, I tried to kind of allude to some level of distrust in Candlekeep, or at the very least putting the player character at odds with Candlekeep. They came and arrested him. But in a lot of ways, I think that opening up the narrative for being sympathetic towards the werejackals, or the werewolves in our case, could lead that ending decision to maybe being more swayed in a different direction. And I think that if you were to take this adventure and put it into a already existing campaign, those character morals, I think, would be more cemented in other events, and that might bleed through to the adventure. And that might be where those choices are kind of banking on kind of that integration.
Yeah, and it's especially cool because as written, the module gives you a lot of ideas about how the players might actually become allies of the werejackal pack and things
Sure.
like that. But you have to, as the DM, kind of prep it in such a way that they get the information they need, or they feel compelled. Not that they feel compelled, but they're incentivized
before they're told it's an option.
Right. They're incentivized to figure out more about the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Our second lesson is to be aware of the length of this module. And we mean it as, as presented, you have time to investigate what's going on in Candlekeep. Then you have a 5-day journey to Baldur's Gate. And then you have however long it takes for them to find Amberdune books. And then how long it takes for them to find the warehouse or the hideout. It's just a lot of steps that, already just in the travel alone, that's 5 days' time. It's very easy for this module to be broken up into 4-hour, even maybe a 6-hour campaign, or, even multiple session, or even multiple, even 4 to 6 sessions in and of itself, depending on how your table is going to play it. So,
yeah, and on how quickly your players kind of figure out what's going on, because it's a lot of investigation and putting pieces together. So, we ran this as a one-shot in less than 2 hours. So, Obviously, there was a lot that had to get trimmed in order to make that happen. So, yeah, if you're just slotting this into a campaign as a side quest to go along with, players poking around Candlekeep, and maybe they're headed to Baldur's Gate anyway, great, you can run this as is. But if you're trying to run this as a one-shot, there may be things you want to change. Right. For example, in the case of our version of it, Baxter just kind of presented to me what was going on with the shape-shifting books. Like, that was just presented, and the objective of going to find the people who had done it was the point. And you also cut one of the NPCs at Candlekeep, right? You just took Valor.
I just used Valor. Pretty much the way that I look at it is I put it into steps, and then I decide which steps are kind of redundant. And, you look at, they have to interview Valor, and then they have to interview the second person, which was, I think, was a flower shop owner or something like that. And I was like, it's interesting, but, if I'm kind of pointing them in one direction as it is, where you were under arrest and et cetera, I just said, let's give them Valor, and Valor could then also work as the combat NPC. But essentially, you look at the steps and you figure out what's redundant or what is kind of not necessarily or applicable in a one-shot, like travel time. That's where we invented, the portal dust to kind of get you from one place to another. The idea is, if you want it to be very long, it totally can. But if you are looking to kind of keep it contained into 1 or 2 sessions, look to cut some of the extra NPCs and maybe the travel time specifically.
Yeah, because overland travel in and of itself is a challenge for a lot of DMs as well. So it could really grind the pace of this to a halt if you're trying to keep it to 1 session or 2 sessions.
Yeah, totally agree.
The third lesson for Mazfroths is to make the reward for doing these things personal to a character in the party or the whole party, for story reasons or just a cool magic item. As written, the reward is I think, Mantle of Comprehend Languages, which is a cool item, but there's a lot being asked of the party for this adventure. Figure out what's going on at Candlekeep with the books, travel all the way to Baldur's Gate, which, if your party is excited to come to Candlekeep, now they're being asked to go 5 days in a different direction toward another major city that maybe they weren't trying to go to in the first place. A cool magic item that casts a spell is fine, but it would be better to personalize it. If you may not be able to incentivize them enough to actually go through with this adventure if you're just running with that item. And if you prepped this adventure, it's probably what you were hoping the party was going to go for, right, as the DM.
Yeah. I think that this is almost a good blanket rule for any quest or adventure, is that, but it's particularly in ones that require a good amount of off-tracking or just a good amount of work in general. In order to incentivize players the best, you need to make sure that what they're working towards is something that their character is actually interested in. And I think you can take it to one step, like a magic item for a specific class, or even another step where you take a magic item for another class and homebrew it, kind of not the mechanics of it necessarily, but the kind of the aesthetics of it to be for a specific character. Or even just the way that I did it, in this one, which is kind of a different way, but narratively, I put Marin into a corner. I said, you got captured, they think you did it, buy your freedom, essentially. Go do this quest to prove you're innocent, and you can go back to not being in jail.
And in my experience, it may just be the kind of parties that I play with or the kind of D&D that we play more often, but I think that these story incentives tend to work better. In my experience, players aren't motivated by just loot alone most of the time. It's sort of not the key thing that compels the players to do things. And so making a story justification, I mean, if it's a one shot, I think what you did in our run through was great. It's like no other choice. They think you did it. You got to do this in order to prove it wasn't you and to buy your freedom. But also, if you're slotting this into an already running campaign, you know why they're coming to Candlekeep, hopefully. Yeah, so you could make this the prerequisite thing for them to get what they were trying to get out of their trip to Candlekeep.
Right. And, again, a lot of these adventures really do better fitting into an already existing campaign as just kind of an addition or a offshoot of an adventure, just kind of a cool down session, whatever. And this one is kind of no different, but I think it also could be a really great way to utilize Candlekeep if the players are already going there, in specific settings that are tied to Baldur's Gate, like modules like Descent into Avernus, for example. Where the players may already be familiar with Baldur's Gate or kind of in that area already or have been. So there's definitely ways you can work it. And I think that is kind of a cool idea. But yeah, base of the lesson is to make the rewards personal. And I think that's just a good blanket rule overall.
Yeah.
That'll do us this time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, give us a like. If you have something to say, put it in the comment section down below. Ben and I love to interact and engage with anyone that has something to say, and Really, it helps us grow the channel and just helps us, reach out and respond to you. And lastly, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. We love to grow the Start Adventuring family, and that's the best way to help us know that you're out there and stay in touch with all of the comments and great videos that we put out here at Start Adventuring.
Yeah, and this video is part of our Candlekeep Mysteries one-on-one shot campaign. We've run through the first 10 adventures in that book one-on-one as 2-hour or less sessions. You can check out all the live plays for that, including the adventure that we talked about in this video, on our channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel further, there is a link to a Patreon in our description down below. On that Patreon, we have longer discussions of our experiences with these adventures, and that's actually where these points come from. So if that's of interest to you, please, we'd love it if you went to go check it out. But I think that's it for us this time. Thanks so much for watching again, and until next time, I'm Ben.
And I'm Baxter. And remember, start adventuring.
Just start adventuring.